Welcome back. There are many great ways to teach pivot to heel. Alternative to the typical disc spin method, I find this simplified way works well for me. To play along, you will need food rewards or meal allowance, a clicker, 2 thick platforms no higher than the hocks, and 2 thin platforms. Start by placing the thick platforms standing distance apart. Each time the dog touches a platform, mark, then reward away from the platform. This encourages repetitive approaching and constant movement, keeping the energy high. For giant breeds especially, keeping the energy high and the movement constant will really help the learning process. Eventually the dog will offer all 4 paws on the platforms. Jackpot reward this with multiple rewards in a row before making a point of releasing the dog and rewarding away from the platforms in order to reset. Next, set the 2 thick platforms side by side and place the smaller 2 platforms stacked in front for the 4 paws. Then, using your own body movement, stepping side to side and a gentle lure if required, have the dog take single side steps back and forth from platform to platform, rewarding each time. The platform should be close enough to allow one single side step. This may take some practice and repetition. With the single side steps fluid, advance to standing on the side of your dog that you want them to pivot to. For example, if you want your dog to pivot to your left side, stand on the right side of their head. You may need to use a lure to encourage the single side step closer. Every single time the side step is performed, release the dog completely from the platforms and reset. We want to practice side stepping closer, not away. Note, if the outer forepaw is raising up while you are doing the luring, you are either moving the dog too fast or you have the lure too high, as pictured in these videos. Next, remove one of the platforms, keeping a thicker one for the rear paws. Keep the difficulty low, having the dog approach from the side or the rear, not from the front. If you raise the difficulty too fast or the dog becomes confused, simply reset away from the platforms, reapproach, and lower the difficulty. Here, I lower the difficulty by rewarding for a simple 4-paw target. Dave then offers a side step in the correct direction, and I reward for that too. To begin teaching 180-degree pivots, I have Dave approach the platform and then reward for even the smallest rear paw step in the right direction. As always, we mark out the platform when the correct task is done, but we reward away from the platform and completely reset. Giant owners, make sure you give your dog time to think and process. Eventually, your dog will offer an enthusiastic pivot to platform. Keep the energy high by randomly rewarding single side steps and not just continuously increasing the difficulty. Keep practicing and repeating until the dog offers all 4 paws on all platforms every single time. Increasing the difficulty again, we reduce the thickness of the 4-paw platform to make targeting more difficult. It is important to keep the rear paw platform thick because this is the one the dog has to target by feel. Next, reduce the rear platform thickness. Set the dog up for success by going back to basics, having the dog approach from the side rear. Every time we increase the difficulty in one way, we must reduce it in another. I've increased the difficulty by removing the rear target, so now I reduce the difficulty of the 180-degree pivot by recommencing rewarding for every single side step in the right direction. Increasing the difficulty again, I ask him to pivot to my right from starting on my left. As you can see, he struggles with this concept, so I make sure that I reward for very simple moves in the right direction. Introducing the concept of pivoting to my right when starting on my left, I return the platforms back to their original place to set Dave up for success. The next morning we incorporated our pivot to left with our pivot to right. I recognized confusion with my body cues, so I installed a distinct hand signal which I will phase out over the coming weeks. Next, add a verbal cue to your training. Always say the verbal cue directly before the hand cue. That will make it easier to phase out the hand cue and just rely on verbal if you want to later on. Practice your cue amongst other cues so that the dog knows to offer just that one and not go through the whole repertoire of tricks that they know every time you ask them to do something. Just like here. Here's where we are now with our pivot to left, pivot to front, and pivot to right. I really hope you enjoyed our video. Let me know if you want to see anything else.
Yeah.